Hi, everyone. Welcome to the second round of breakouts for our first OSN Skills Summit. You are joining us here for the live OSMT demo, and we have Allison Blackwell, the product manager at WGU, joining us to walk us through that demo. I will be over here in the background on chat, so we'd love to hear where you're joining us from, who you are, what you're working on, and any burning questions that you have related to anything OSN or OSMT. Allison, I'm going to go ahead and kick it off to you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Kelly. I'm glad to be here. Excited to talk about OSMT. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's the Open Skills Management Tool. We love to use our acronyms in OSN, just like I'm sure you do wherever you're coming from as well. But the OSMT is what we call it for short, our beloved OSMT. And I'm super excited to be here today representing this tool to you and talking you through what it would look like to actually take the skills data that you either have or want to create and to turn it into machine actionable skills data. And so a little bit about me. I work at Western Governors University. I actually joined the university on the skills architecture team just over 2 years ago and was a participant in our original meeting where we got together with key stakeholders and talked about the OSN. I think I was even in the call where we started talking, what are we going to call this? What should we call skills? It's not just a skill, but it's a rich skill descriptor, and I'll talk you through what I mean when I say that as well. So I'm really passionate about this, passionate about the idea of taking all the skills that we have and turning them into something that's usable and a common language. And we are definitely putting this into practice at WGU. But what I tell everyone I talk to about skills is that this is not something that WGU can solve alone. You heard that today in the keynote, that this is a global issue where we need to be moving from traditional degrees or paper credentials to skills language. And the ability to do that and to use this tool, the Open Skills Management tool, to do it is something that's really powerful. So excited to talk you through it today. Please, of course, be active in the chat, post your questions. Kelly will be moderating for me, and so we'll hope to leave plenty of time at the end to get to your questions as you have them. All right, so Open Skills Management Tool is why you're here today. And so what is this OSMT? It will be a free open source tool that will facilitate production of rich skill descriptors. And I'll actually show you, if you're unfamiliar yet, what a rich skill descriptor is, or an RSD, another acronym for your glossary, an RSD. And so what we want to do with this tool, the OSMT, is to take data, like I said, skills data that exists. Maybe it exists in a PDF or on a website or on a piece of paper on your desk, in a PDF, and to turn it into usable skills data. And the OSMT will allow you to do that, to whether that's to import it or to author it from scratch, and to be able to manage it and organize it in a way that can then actually be used or shared with others to create what we've been referring to as this Rosetta Stone, the skills language that we can actually point to and use across higher education, industry, government, to communicate about what people can do, so that we have a better way, not only for us as higher education institutions, organizations, employers, to talk about skills and what we're actually looking for or trying to teach, but so that learners, employees can better communicate about the skills that they have as well. And so that's the goal, is to have a tool that is accessible, easy to use, user-friendly, so that it's not daunting when you hear machine-readable skills data, but rather that we provide a way that's easy for that to happen. So as I said, you can take your existing skills frameworks and actually turn them into skills data and use those, as was mentioned earlier today as well, to tag to job descriptions or write job descriptions, to tag to curriculum, so that we can put the right skills language in the hands of those who care about it the most, to speak that common skills language. I mentioned RSD, and just to make sure I level the playing field for all of us on the call, I wanted to give you a brief overview of what an RSD actually is. So when we say skills at the OSN, we're not talking about skill as keyword. communication, product management, whatever it might be. When you think of skill as keyword, that's not what we're actually talking about. When we say skill, we mean rich skill descriptors, an actual package of skills data that focuses on this skill statement at what I call the heart of the RSD. So this skill statement actually contextualizes how a skill should be performed in a given occupation. So connecting the skill keyword to some sort of definition or contextualization as to what that skill actually looks like for a given context. So the skill statement is the heart of that rich skill descriptor. It does have keywords that are associated with it that will allow for searchability across systems. It has occupational data that can be tagged to it. So at WGU, our over 13,000 RSDs at this point in time in our library have occupational codes tagged from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and also ONET, job codes tagged to them. We do use intelligent labor market data not only to help us to author these contextualized skill statements, but also tag to our skill statements so that if someone accesses the RSD, they can click a link and view exactly how that particular skill is performing in the labor market, what other types of skills travel with it, what job descriptions are referencing that skill, and is there some trend information about how prevalent it is in job postings or in job profiles. We also have the ability to tag to standards or certifications that may reference that skill or require it. And so you'll see here that it's not just a keyword communication, but rather a package of data that gives you all the context you need about that skill to make it meaningful and usable. So that's a rich skill description with of course, the intention of it being interoperable and able to be communicated across systems and shared to become that Rosetta Stone. So the OSMT has some core capabilities, and we are just in version 1 of the OSMT right now. And the intention of version 1 was to simply allow users to author RSDs, to manage those RSDs, and to publish or share those RSDs at scale for use. And so there are 2 different ways to author RSDs, which I will walk you through. One is that you can do it from scratch. You can author one RSD. There's a form available in the tool for you to be able to do that. You can also, if you have existing skills data that you want to start with, and of course you have the opportunity to make it even more usable and meaningful in the OSMT, you can batch import that data using a CSV batch import, which I will show you as well. There is just some minimum required fields to start from, and if you use that minimum and batch import it, then you're able to access the data in your library and manage it from there. But a great convenience for users who do already have existing data that they want to turn into machine readable skills. We wanted to allow users the ability to organize those skills for a given purpose. So within the tool, as you author or batch import your skills, you'll see your full skills library available. But we need to be able to organize these skills for given purposes, whether that is to create job descriptions or to author skills-based curriculum. And the search functionality within the OSMT allows users to refine that library and to create collections of skills that can be used. So you might have at WGU, we'd have collections of skills based on the different programs that we were looking to develop for learners. So if an academic program director would come to us and say, we want to target these particular occupations, we can actually search within our library and make a collection of RSDs for that particular purpose and share it with those who are creating the curriculum in order to make that connection really explicit between what we're trying to teach to our learners and the jobs that we're preparing them for. So really simple ways to organize RSDs. And then, of course, publishing. This puts the open in open skills is our ability to publish those RSDs and collections and to share them. So we wanted to make sure that we had a system that allowed us to publish those RSDs and collections to be used in digital asset management systems, CMS, our HR systems, so that as we're creating RSDs, that they're not just stuck in one other tool that we can't get them out of, but rather that they're portable and able to be used. So that's really the core functionality of OSMT as it exists today. And I will walk you through right now what some of this looks like. So here's a view of what it looks like when you would log into the OSMT. And I'll first point out here that you can see this is a WGU Open Skills Management tool. Of course, one of our key features is the ability to white label the header. So there's an OSMT instance for the OSN that was used during the pilots that you've heard discussed that has the OSN logo in it, OSN coloring, that's able to be used here to create an OSMT tool that is just right for your organization. I think you can even change the title. So if you don't want to call it the Open Skills Management tool, you could call it the super awesome tool that helps us write RSDs. Whatever you want it to be, that's available to you there. You can see here the core functionality that I described, the ability to create RSDs and collections, to batch import them, and to search them in our common controls there in the header. And then, of course, the most important part is your library of RSDs. So you can see here, this is a staging environment that I took a screenshot of. So there are 413 RSDs in this RSD library right here. You have the ability to look at your RSDs in draft status, published status, and of course to archive them if they are no longer relevant within particular occupations that you're looking to target. So our skills library here is organized by category. A category is just a way of organizing your data that allows you to group your RSDs based on theme, is how it's been designed. You can also see here that you have a kind of a truncated view of each of your RSDs. It's hopefully enough that gives you the ability to understand what that RSD is about and to take quick action on it if you choose to do that. Each RSD that you see here has a short name that's hyperlinked to show you the full view of the RSD with all its metadata, the skill statement itself, its status, keywords that of course will enable searchability of that RSD across systems, and the occupational codes. So here displayed in this short view, you can see the titles of any BLS, SOC code, or ONET code that are tagged to the particular RSDs in this view. So you can choose to act on one or more RSDs from this view. Here at the bottom, you can see you can publish them if they are in draft form. You could archive them if they're no longer needed. You could unarchive them if you made a mistake or changed your mind. And of course, you can add them to collections as well. I haven't put any slides on today here to show you what the advanced search looks like, but I will say that the advanced search allows the ability to search on any and all properties within an individual RSD. And you do have, of course, on the home page and throughout access to a simple search on both RSDs and collections, as well as at the top of the page, a quick view of the RSD library and the ability to switch between the collections library for all collections that have been made within a particular instance of OSMT. So that was a really fast run through of what the home page looks like. And I'll walk you through now what it looks like to actually perform some of these key capabilities that I've outlined here. All right, so this is what it looks like to have a fully completed RSD using the create RSD fields within the tool. So if you were to click that button I showed you, create RSD, it would pull up this blank template for you. And this one has been populated for view, so you can see what a full RSD would look like here. You can see the required fields. So a short name, infrastructure component security here is the short name, author, Western Governors University, which can be configured in the white label parameters as being always populated and turned off, so users don't have to fill out every time if you don't want them to. And then the skill statement itself. That's all that's required to get you started on creating machine-readable skills data. So if you were to utilize the batch import and this is all you have to start with, that's absolutely fine. You would just need to use the template that I'll show you, populate that short name, skill statement, author if you choose to use one that's not white labeled, and then you'll have your start of your skills library and could choose to utilize it from there. These other fields that you see as a part of the rich skill descriptor are completely optional and all with, as I said, the intention of making it even more meaningful and even richer if that is something that would be valuable to you and your particular use case for rich skills. So at WGU, we are using all of these fields. I think with the exception of employers right now, we haven't created any specific collections for employers in our current library, but that's available as well if there were partnerships across different organizations where we were creating collections either collaboratively or aligned to particular employers and jobs. So you can see here we have our category completed, our keywords, standards. This particular skill is aligned to the NICE framework if you're familiar with cybersecurity standards, certifications in cybersecurity, and the detailed occupation here is truncated, but if I was to click on view all groups, it would show the full hierarchy across all BLS SOC code codes, so that if you did want to use those for searching purposes, that you could do that at the various level, all the way from most broad at the major group, which more closely aligns to industry, then all the way down to the most granular, which in BLS would be those detailed occupations, and ONET, of course, the codes there, as you can see as well. So lots and lots of job code data available. And because managing that hierarchy could be cumbersome and lead to human error, which we all know we're prone to making, there is some convenience in the tool for users that if you populate one of the more granular codes, that the hierarchy will actually be maintained in the tool for you, which is, I think, a nice little feature. The alignment field here, we at WGU have chosen to align our RSDs to MZ's Open Skills Library. And so this is the MZ Open Skill here that aligns to this particular skill, which you can see closely matches our category here. And if I was to click on this link, it would take me to the landing page for this particular MZ skill, which is that labor market insight that I was referring to, that not only provides a description from MZ about what that skill is referring to more broadly, but the skills that might travel with it in job profiles or job descriptions, the labor market trend for that skill at the particular time, and some actual live job postings that users can look at to see how that skill is being talked about by employers. So really neat connection that we're able to make there. An exciting enhancement that was just recently made to the Open Skills Management Tool code is that there's now the ability to align up to, I think it's up to 100 different alignments per RSD. So if you look at this and think, there's no way I could just capture, the association I want to make between one RSD and one labor market insight, you have the ability now to align to different URLs here, which is what this field gives you. So that's a neat little feature that will be rolled out with our next version of the tool. So that is what it looks like to create one RSD from scratch. And as I mentioned, you can also batch import. And what I wanted to draw your attention here to is that on the batch import page, there is actually a CSV template to get you started. So you can download the template, and I highly recommend doing that. Excuse me, let me take a sip of water. I highly recommend, if you're going to batch import, to always start with this template. In fact, anytime I do a batch import, I just start with this template so that I know I'm using the exact format that the tool is asking me for and that my data is ready for import. So you can either drag and drop that file or upload it from your computer. And some great conveniences with batch importing are that the tool itself will actually do a similarity check between your skill statements in your CSV and the library that you already have populating the tool to let you know if you already have skills that read very similar to what you're bringing in, so that if you don't want to create redundancy within your own library, you have the opportunity to check your file again and to make sure that it's really clean, and that you aren't bringing in duplicates. You can also choose to exclude any duplicates as you're reviewing your batch import so that they won't be brought into the library for a second time. And I also should have mentioned back on our Create RSD page that we have that same similarity check that happens with skill statement authoring when you're authoring from scratch and your RSD. It will tell you, yep, this skill is unique, you're okay, good to go, green check mark, or this skill is really similar to some skills that you already have in your library. And actually, here they are. Here are the hyperlinks to go ahead and take a look at those skills that are similar so that you can determine if, you know what, this particular RSD that I've authored really does have a different slant. It's geared towards this particular job role or industry rather than this other RSD, which I was targeting some other particularity with. So it's nice to know that there's the ability to try to keep your RSD library as clean as possible and reduce those redundancies. So that's batch importing, really simple. You batch import your template, it gives you a chance to review everything, to check your similarity, to say yes, you want to keep them or no, exclude them, and then to hit next, and it'll tell you you're successful, and then you'll be able to see all of those new RSDs in your library. The next key feature, which you can see, this is very simple, is the ability to create collections. So from any view of an RSD in the tool, whether that was our home page or RSD library landing page, the individual view of an RSD, or starting from scratch with a collection, you always have the ability to add your RSDs to a collection. It's as simple as hitting Create Collection, naming your collection, and then clicking Add RSDs to this collection. You can edit your collection name, you can publish it, and you can archive it. That collection, once created, will live within your collection library, and you'll be able to return to it over time, and to make edits if you choose to do that, to add more RSDs to it. There's also some search functionality within the collection, so if you do want to add more RSDs, you just hit that button and you're able to search on the different parameters that you want to simply, or to use that advanced search option as well. And the last key capability that I mentioned is the ability to publish RSDs and collections. So again, anytime you're looking at an RSD view, whether that's the homepage or the detailed view, search results, you can choose to publish your RSDs. And you can also publish your RSDs by publishing a collection if they happen to still be in draft status. But what happens when you publish that RSD is that a canonical URL is created for the RSD that lives with that RSD in perpetuity for usefulness. Wherever that RSD should travel, you have a link available that will take you straight to this home page. And typically what I do in demos would be to publish an RSD, grab that URL, pop it in the chat for you, and you would be able to open that right up. So if you ever do want a sample, you can reach out to me and I'm happy to share that with you. But you can see here that there's a rich skill descriptor short name. The author field is broken apparently in the version I took a screenshot of, so that was my bad. But it would say the author on there, and this would be the landing page view of a public RSD. And from this public view, you're able to copy that URL. You can download the RSD as a CSV, or you can copy the JSON code as well. Similarly, with the published collection, I just created a test collection for our demo today, and you can see here that it shows you how many RSDs are in the collection. It does have pagination there at the bottom if it is a big collection for you, how many you're viewing, 20 at a time. And it does truncate the view of the RSD here to just include category and then the short name and contextualized skill statement for the RSD. However, if users are interested in learning more about that particular RSD, just as within the tool, you're able to click on that short name and view essentially what's on the left here, which would be that public view of the RSD anywhere that collection would be populated. And then you have the same sharing options within the public view of the collection, which is to copy that URL, download the CSV, or copy the JSON there as well. So the canonical URL would also live with the published collection, and these collections then would be able to be referred back to by that URL wherever they travel and are made use of. So that is a really quick overview of hopefully what are the simple, easy to use capabilities of the Open Skills Management tool. In this first iteration, as I mentioned, it's really about making sure that we, as quickly as possible, put in the hands of users a tool that allows you to create machine actionable skills data and to manage your skills library. And then as time moves on, to be able to share these libraries across different job roles or across different industries that can truly become that Rosetta Stone that we're pointing back to as our common skills language. So where do we go from here? The exciting part of this is that it is open source. As I told you at the beginning, our intention is that this would be a free open source tool so that we can start communicating about skills together. And so the open source code, though not available yet, should be available in the next couple months, and we'll be excited to make a big announcement about that as the larger OSN. The code base will become available in a GitHub repository for those of you who are technical. For those of you who are not as technical, there will be a website that will explain how to get more involved with the open source code, including the ability to contribute feedback, user insights, enhancement opportunities, so that as the OSMT develops and moves beyond its version 1, we can truly make sure that we're taking into consideration the community of users and the needs that you all have as you're authoring RSDs from your given perspective of using skills to communicate as that common language. And so OSMT will continue to be enhanced. I have a list going. That's my job as product manager, is to listen to everyone who has used OSMT or seen demos of it and to take into consideration what everyone is seeing. So if you're a pilot participant already and you're attending today, thank you for your feedback. And I look forward to seeing this tool continue to evolve and to become even more usable and adoptable over time. So that was a quick rundown of V1, and I'm excited to answer any questions that you might have about it.
Thank you so much, Allison. Excuse me. And thank you so much to our audience members, because the chat has been very active, which I love.
Good. I can't see it. So now I'm having FOMO. Tell me, Kelly.
Yeah, no. I'm going to read out the questions. You're all good. Okay. We have quite a number of questions. So let me go back to the beginning here and get us to the first question that came. Oh, hold on. I guess my chat goes back into even the other session. So there we go. Okay, I'm going to start at the bottom. So there's a question from Hannah. Is there potential for integrations of internal databases with this platform for easy batch addition?
Yes. I would say absolutely yes. There's been a lot of requests for programmatic APIs, and I think that has to be considered both on the front end to be able to bring potential RSDs into the tool easily. There was talk at one point about a kind of an extractor tool where we might be able to take PDFs and actually extract data from them into the tool as well. And then on the back end of the tool, to be able to communicate the libraries and the collections that have already been created within it, and then to communicate to the CMSs or the digital asset management systems or the HRIS systems. So yes, that one is definitely on the list and something that's being talked about as a part of the OSMT roadmap.
Fantastic. A question from Lena: will OSMT be released populated with an existing data set? If yes, from where?
So that's a really good question. And so my initial answer is probably not. I don't think we're planning to release the code with any data within it. However, that doesn't mean that there won't be the ability in the future to access existing data, libraries, or collections, and to bring them into your instance of OSMT. One of WGU's goals is to contribute to the open skills community. And so as we're creating these collections in our skills library, we hope other users as well will be open to sharing and truly collaborating and creating this Rosetta Stone that consists of skills that we're all wanting to use. If we just make our own skills and don't share them, then it only serves us internally and doesn't truly serve our learners in the way that we're hoping that they'll be served by making that connection between higher education and the labor market. So we hope that others would do that as well.
Thank you. And we also have a question from Mary Elizabeth. Is there any way we can get that Excel template?
Yes. My last slide is my email. So please feel free to email me if you're interested in the Excel template, and I'm happy to share that with you. Even if you don't have an instance of OSMT stood up, I think it would be great to start using the template. In fact, WGU, as we created our library of, like I said, now 13,000 plus RSDs, I won't tell you for how long, but we wrote them in a Google Sheet, and it became pretty untenable. But yes, so if you can just start creating your RSDs somewhere when you do have time to access the OSMT itself, it'll make importing them into the tool and making them machine actionable that much easier.
That's fantastic. And also just to note that you can also email info@openskillsnetwork.org.
Yes, that too.
We have a question from Scott. Are there or will there be APIs for a platform app to be able to access all the RSDs? For example, to start associating skills to jobs in a job searching platform?
That's a really good question, and I think something that will definitely require more conversation. We have talked at length about the need for the ability to be able to search libraries between OSMT instances, and the need to be able to take the libraries that exist and to make meaning of them, make use of them in these other systems. So I would encourage you, as you hear those conversations coming up, to be a part of them and to help shape the future of what that looks like.
Thank you. We have a question from AJ. What if a SOC is not available for an emerging field related skills? I think I might have missed a portion of that, but I think I got the gist of the question.
Yeah, email the BLS no, I'm kidding. That's a good question. It's something that we have definitely talked about at WGU, and I would say that one of the other enhancement opportunities on the roadmap for the future is the ability to align occupational codes that are not BLS SOC codes or ONET codes. So if there are other job code frameworks that are accounting for those emerging fields, that's something that could be captured there in the future. And then I would say, if there aren't codes to align to, that making use of keywords, categories, other types of alignments with URLs could help to provide that meaning and context that you'd be looking for and allow you to search on them if the occupational codes aren't available at the time that you create the RSD. We all know that, I was going to say that the BLS SOC and ONET had not been updated in a very long time. And I think at least the BLS SOC codes had rolled out 2 updates within 2 years, the 2018 and the 2020. And we had updated to all the 2020. And then they rolled out, or 18, and then they rolled out the 2020. I thought, what are you doing? You hadn't updated in 10 years. And now you're going to update them 2 times. So maybe they're going to plan to stay more up to date moving forward.
Maybe these movements are starting to push in that direction, right?
Exactly.
So we've got another question from Michelle, I believe. Oh, let me get that question back up on my screen here. Will OSMT skill descriptions be integrated, cross-referenced, or aligned? I think we actually may have just touched on this, but I'm going to read it out anyway. Or aligned with existing occupational indices such as the DOT, SIC, ONET. That's the question. Sorry, I thought there was some additional comments after that, but there's the question.
Yeah, I think, as a community, we'll all have to work together to determine what the Rosetta Stones for talking about skills are. And so the ability to pull in existing libraries that truly are that Rosetta Stone for given industries. Even I mentioned in the example that I'd put on the screen that NICE, the cybersecurity framework, the NICE framework, very well recognized across the cybersecurity industry and has skills that are referenced and skills that are made use of. Not every industry has something like that. That's a standard that's so well accepted that can be pointed to. And I think that's really where we'll have to come together as a community and help fill in the gaps and to create those frameworks in writing skills collaboratively together that we can use for creating job postings and creating relevant curriculum. But where there are existing libraries of skills, I think we'd absolutely want to be making use of those and agreeing on them as a standard moving forward so that we're speaking that common language.
We have a question from Steve. It looks straightforward to use OSMT once the skill descriptions and metadata are in hand. Can you speak to the work that was required to build out the data to enter into the system? It looks like a lot of work to identify the skills, frameworks, and certifications that are relevant for any particular domain.
That is a great question, and that is also true. So the WGU Skills Architecture team has been, I think, together as a group since the end of 2018. Well, I should say the Skills Architecture team began in 2018 with a couple founding members and has since grown. But the work of that group, I think, will hopefully help others who now tackle this work to be able to get there more quickly based on all of the lessons learned. When we started 2 years ago, we did not have a schema, a rich skill descriptor schema. We were learning as we went. And we're still learning and we'll continue to learn and evolve with all of your input as the work progresses. But I think the lessons learned by that team over the last 2 years to get from 0 RSDs to 13,000 plus will be incredibly valuable to those of you who are picking up this work. But I will say, writing RSDs from scratch takes industry research, subject matter expertise, and time and resources. And so I think that's what will be powerful. I keep saying that word powerful, but I think it's the word of the hour here is that those of us doing the work and putting the resources in it can benefit the broader community by sharing our RSDs openly and saying, just because you may not have all the resources to go out and write your 13,000 RSDs yourself doesn't mean that you aren't invited to the party. This has to be a movement to change the way that we talk about what learners have accomplished and are able to do. And so we want everyone to be able to do that. And publishing RSDs openly, those of us who do, will benefit those, like I said, who don't have the resources and allow us to continue to move towards speaking that common language. So yes, it is a lot of work, but hopefully we'll continue to get faster and better at it as we work together.
So true, Allison. Thank you. Question from Scott. Have you all explored a relationship with Workday and the work they've done over the past several years building the Workday Skills Cloud?
I am not as privy to what type of relationship we may have with them, but I will say that we have definitely talked to many different organizations who have skills libraries. And what we want all organizations to know that something that is front and center of our work is the openness. And so we know that Workday, LinkedIn, others have put time and energy into creating skills libraries that are in use and well used. I think we all are in LinkedIn probably and seeing those skills be used on a daily basis in LinkedIn. But the power of them happens when we all come together, can use the same ones and speak the same language across different systems. And so yeah, I don't know about the relationship, but I know from my perspective, what I would love to see is for those libraries to be open.
That would be fabulous. Let's see what we've got here. And so many wonderful comments from people, by the way. Allison, I know you're not getting to see these, but a lot of kudos for your work. So just wanted to point that out. A lot of kudos for this incredible movement. Let's see, there was one question that I wanted to touch on. I know we've got about one more minute here, and I just lost the question in my chat. So bear with me one second. But AJ had asked a question about skills being mapped to more than one SOC, and could they also be mapped to more than one SIP? I know another audience member kindly shared a link there in the chat with some information, but I thought I'd also relay this question to you if you had any thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. The example that I shared was a very focused example, cybersecurity, but we have RSDs in our library that are mapped to many SOC code. And I think that it depends on the skill. If it's focused and particular, specific to one occupation, it may only have one set of codes. But if it's a skill that is more common and used across industries, then it could have a very long list of codes. And so I think you'll see that depending on the skill itself, that will depend on just how many codes you're actually seeing listed there, where it will show up in your searches, and how you'd organize it into different collections. WGU has what we call our 21st Century Skills Library, the top in-demand skills across industries. And so you'll see those skills have many codes on them that allow for searchability and access, depending on the different lens at which we're looking at occupations.
We do have one really fantastic last question. So I'm going to go over this one last minute for this question from Jeff. How are you determining a skill's durability or needed life cycle? With skills evolving or life cycles changing so quickly based on market industry changes, how are educators adjusting curriculum to account for the amount to invest in skills for longer and shorter terms?
Jeff, that is probably the best and hardest question. And so thanks, Kelly, for forcing me to answer it. I think we're done. That's a really good question. And again, I think something that I cannot answer alone. And so if you have questions like that, I would absolutely encourage you to get involved with the OSN working groups, and to work collaboratively on what it actually looks like to keep our skills libraries up to date and relevant based on the labor market trends of today, based on the skills that our employers are actually hiring for, so that we can help truly close that gap between the educational experiences that we're providing to learners at higher educational institutions like WGU and others who I know are here today, and what employers are actually looking for. So that is a great question, and something that I hope that we'll be able to tackle together as we move forward.
Good point, Allison. Well, we are over. So I am going to say thank you again to our audience members, to Allison, to the team at WGU, to the team at OSN. I would love for you guys to all join us back in the general session area. If we didn't hit your question, please feel free to head over to the website. We have a lot of resources on there, and we'd love for you to join us as a member if you haven't done so already. All right, I'll see you back over in that general session area in just a minute. Bye.
Thanks so much, everyone.